day, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Saturday Showcase, where we're talking about loan readiness. Because the truth is, access to funding can unlock major growth, but only if you're prepared. And here at ABDL, we work with entrepreneurs to help them get their things in order, get their ducks in a row, as we usually say, in order to be ready to access those loans. And of course, joining me this morning is my colleague Roel as we get into it. So Roel, I want to get started. As we talk about loan readiness, can you share with the entrepreneurs who are watching what it means to be loan ready?
Yes, I think before we jump into actually trying to define it, and it's really happy to be here. It's really happy to be here. I'm happy to be here and to share some of what we've learned along the way in preparing some of our clients for accessing financing, And in this particular area, I have to say the first thing we have to treat with is a mindset, Alina. There's a mindset that influences how people get themselves ready for a loan. And in fact, there's a mindset that affects how people approach and engage with a financial institution, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things, of course, is that there's a lack of trust, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a perception and a way in which financial institutions are viewed, which means people try to hide information, change information, do all kinds of things because there's this perception that either one, my information is going to be used in a particular way, or it's not going to work in my benefit. So there's that type of a thing. There's a kind of lack of trust about what financial institutions are doing, right? Related to that is also how people see record keeping. Right? Mm. And that is probably a whole topic by itself. But a lot of business persons, small business, whatever size of business, right, have an issue with keeping documentation, right? Sometimes they just don't have the time for it. Some don't see the need. Many are not aware of the value of having proper records. And that's where the challenge with the main challenge begins, not having proper records in place. So I think the first thing we have to address is the mindset and getting business persons to understand that there is a way to build a good relationship with financial institutions, right? And that they're not all out there to get you, right? And to take advantage of the money or whatever you bring there, right? And it's only for a certain group of people. These are all the things that are circulating, right? And I think once you treat it with that mindset, it helps the entrepreneur to begin to be a little bit more transparent, because a lot of loan readiness comes down to sharing information on how your business is doing, right? So that would be my kind of initial thought around loan readiness and the mindset. There's a mindset that is required, right? If and when, right, someone is going to pursue a loan or any kind of financing instrument at any institution, Many institutions have their own checklists, those things we can get into later. But essentially, loan readiness is about getting all the documentations, all the plans, all right, related to the particular endeavor that requires financing, getting all that support information in place. So that is essentially what, if you want to look for a basic definition, is required. All the plans and the supporting information that helps to justify those plans and to give the loan entity, right, that confidence that this plan can work.
And at ABDL, because you recognize that being loan ready means that you want to have your business finances, you want to have your documentation and all of these things in order to present to the lending institution with confidence. I think it's so valuable to realize and to share with those who are listening that at ABDL we don't just hand out a checklist. It's not a generic thing where, hey, this is a checklist, it's Googleable as they say, but we really work with entrepreneurs to have them understand why each piece matters and we work alongside the entrepreneur to make sure they're able to get it right. So whether they're applying for a bank loan, applying to a credit union, a government grant, whatever, we're going to be able to tailor that support to match the institutions and what they're looking for. And even as we consider what institutions are looking for, I want to ask, can you share some insight in this? What are those major things institutions look for when it comes to focusing on the documentation and so on that would be required to get that yes? Can you give some insight on this?
Yes, I would say the best thing that an entrepreneur can do in terms of preparing themselves for the process of financing, I think, is to understand that the bank is really looking for credibility. And in fact, we're all looking for credibility in different ways. Just as an entrepreneur has to go out and deal with a supplier or deal with a potential customer who is supposed to pay them, you understand? When you want to engage your services, you want to know that that person who's engaging you can pay you, right? So it means you are going to be looking at them in a particular way. You're going to be looking at, has this person paid in the past? You understand? What has been the record? Has there been any problems with them? Because you're not going to engage a client. You're not going to give your services for free, right? And I think that's the overarching principle, that it's about credibility. And credibility is impacted by so many things. How you present what you present, how you communicate, how your business is set up. Some lending entities will actually do site visits. All right. And I don't know if you can recall at one time, Alina, we paid a site visit to someone in the area of welding and fabrication, and when you got to the site, you found out that they didn't do welding. They have to rely on other persons. Those things begin to challenge credibility, right? They didn't have a welding plant on site. They didn't have proper storage, right? So this is why I wanted to emphasize the whole idea of credibility. Everything that you present, and a big part of that, of course, would be your financials, right? You need to have accurate financials. Generally, institutions ask for 3 to 5 years of financials, depending on the size and the nature of the loan, all right? So it's nice to show what happened in the business to bring you to this point, all right? Of course, if your finances show that you can't pay for a loan, well, then it answers the question, right? So, but you want to be accurate about that, and you don't want to pad it, because they are going to investigate, right? Of course, in addition to having the accurate financials, right, you want to ensure that you also are clear on what you want to do with this money, right? And the purposes for which this loan is going to be used, all right? And you want to make sure that there's a match between what you can pay, right, and what the loan may require of you on a monthly basis. So that's where the financials will come in to connect with a clear plan. And in that regard, sometimes they ask for cash flow projections, sometimes they ask for a business plan, which spells out, right? And why a business plan is important is that it's one thing to put on paper some financials, some numbers, but the bank or the financial institution will want to get a deeper dive into how you're going to ensure that you meet the numbers that you project, and how do you assess demand, right? How do you know that this is the kind of demand that's out there? How do you assure the institution that you're going to get, you understand, a particular market to justify your revenues, to justify the loan payment, So the whole idea of the accurate financials, loan purpose, a clear loan purpose as demonstrated in a business plan, right? As well as credibility, I would say the 3 critical components that the lending institutions are looking for.
Certainly, I know ABDL helps entrepreneurs prepare for all of these because we review financials, we help entrepreneurs be able to articulate their loan purpose in very clear terms and really walk through what documents are needed in order for them to make this full package of what demonstrates credibility. And of course, this includes support with registration, statutory applications, and all the things that go into really establishing credibility as an institution. But oftentimes, businesses roll, they make mistakes, and there are a lot of common mistakes and fixes that we work with entrepreneurs to overcome. Would you be able to give any insight on these?
Yeah, well, I guess one of the first things we try to understand, and I started with the idea of mindset, right? Some
Yeah.
people have a very strained relationship with records and record keeping, right? So oftentimes they're getting to a loan now and they have to scramble to put information together, right? Because in the first place, they don't value proper record keeping. And as I said before, that certainly will have to be another session that we can get into, right?
Yeah.
So it means that some of your information will be missing, some of it may be outdated. You just wouldn't have the data to support what you say your business has done and what your
Yeah.
business is going
Can
to
do.
do,
Yeah.
right? And I want to say here, it's very important to understand that entrepreneurs miss out on a lot of um, ideas for innovation and creativity because they don't understand the numbers.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can recall a client of mine, and I've shared this story with you many times, where they were into the restaurant business, right? Preparing all these meals, and they had such a great demand, and they were so happy about this long line. But when they looked at the numbers, when we sat down and we looked at the numbers, they realized that it was too expensive. They were not making a profit on a number of items on their menu, right?
Yeah.
And plenty times we think we're making a profit, but we don't have the records. And when we begin to put it together, especially in a loan situation, we look at the numbers now and say, oh, those numbers tell a different story. So missing and outdated documents and information, So I want to encourage anyone who's listening to even now, start now. Even if you're going to put everything in one box, do that. Put all your bills. Even if you didn't get a receipt, make a note of it,
Yeah.
put it in a box, and at least keep it, all right, for the purposes of bookkeeping and so forth, right? So you want to have that kind of mindset, right? The other challenge that comes up would be in how you therefore project. Now, certainly we know the principle garbage in, garbage out. If you have poor inaccurate information, missing information, then when it comes to making projections, you're going to have a little challenge, right? So
Yeah.
certainly you want to be able to make a real projection, all right, about what the potential revenues and the expenses associated with those revenues. And pretty often you see these cash flow projections where every month is the same revenue and every month is the same expenses. And you and I know, and every business person knows out there, that there are fluctuations. So you want your cash flow projection to reflect, a more real situation, right? In particular, right, when you're doing your projections also, you want to ensure that when you're projecting cost, right, you go a little bit on the higher end, right? And your revenues, you could kind of probably look at an average or even sometimes worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And I could tell you, financiers love that. When you're going to finance and they're realizing that even on a worst case scenario, your revenue figures cover your costs, beautiful. So those are some of the things that you want. And it's good. It's a good business practice anyway, because too many persons run businesses hoping that they have a best case scenario to survive.
Yeah.
And if you're running a business hoping for the best case scenario, you're going to run into challenge, right? The
Yeah.
third part, which we would have mentioned before, would be now, what's your plan, right? There's a cash flow projection that puts numbers, right? But these numbers tell a story and paint a story. And the financiers are going to ask about, do you have the kind of resources? Who are the people you have on board? Are they qualified? Can they deliver, right? Can you do this on your own? Do you need a team? What kind of a team that you need? Do you need you need to market your business? Do you have any experience in marketing? Does this business require storage space? Do you have the storage space? So all these are some of the questions that come together that demonstrate to the financier that, listen, you have a plan, right? To treat with the revenue, getting the revenue, and a plan to deal with the costs. Yeah.
Certainly. So we want to say, if you're thinking about applying for a loan, here is your simple checklist, the things you definitely want to make sure you have. And if you're thinking about all that we've shared in this particular episode and it gives you pause, it makes you think, oh my gosh, I'm not ready. It's okay. That's what we're here for, because ABDL's Loan Readiness Service is really gonna take you through that experience of getting that personalized document checklist, review of financials and projections, and of course providing one-on-one coaching to help you talk through everything that is involved so you could get ready. So it really is all about giving you the support that you need in order to walk into the institution's office, hold your head high, and know that everything is in place. So Rol, are there any final thoughts you would want to share as we think about it? Yes, certainly. So, I really hope that today's conversation helped take the mystery out of loan readiness. And, again, I want to emphasize at ABDL, we believe that access to funding should never come down to confusion or guesswork. If you're building something real, you the entrepreneur, you deserve support that is practical, trusted, and rooted in experience. And don't forget, we have our loan readiness ebook. So get your hands on it, send us an email, comment below, reach out to us through WhatsApp 330-8341, that is 330-8341, and ask for our loan readiness ebook. We'll be happy to send for you. It's free of charge because we really want entrepreneurs to be supported. And if it is you need to retain a service and get that consultant, be sure to reach out to us so that we can hold your hand and guide you through the loan readiness program. It was great being with you here on this Saturday showcase. And until next time, take care and be loan ready.